Hello? Your Health is Calling, where holistic health meets practical solutions for your well-being. With your host, speaker, New York Times bestselling author, Sue Kostyk, a seasoned holistic health practitioner and longevity coach. Join Sue each week to embark on a journey to uncover the root causes of your health concerns. Through a personalized approach, learn how to decode the messages your body is sending and craft natural protocols to address them. Call in live at 888-994-4995 Studio A.
Good morning and welcome to Hello, Your Health is Calling. I'm Sue Kostyk. I am an integrative health practitioner, and integrative health means getting to the root cause of your symptoms. Why are you having the symptoms? Not putting a Band-Aid on the symptom, but digging in through functional lab testing and really finding out what the root cause is. And today's show is really going to tackle that topic of symptoms, why we have them, what your body's trying to tell you. And it might bleed into more than just a 1-week session. So there's a lot to be said about symptoms and what your body is trying to tell you. I talk a lot when I talk to groups, I talk about our bodies giving us signals. And that's also why I love the topic or the name of this show, Hello, Your Health is Calling, because our body is set up to give us warning signs. And very much like our car has a check engine light, our body gives us the same kind of signals. So when you get in your car and you turn it on and that check engine light comes on, first of all, it's extremely frustrating, but it's really, it's a sign that something's going on. And our tendency is to just keep driving around until we can't. And we do the same thing with our bodies. We get some kind of nagging symptom. We think, oh, it'll go away if I ignore it. And the funny thing about our body is that it will rob Peter to pay Paul. And you can keep moving around and going on with these symptoms until you can't. And that's when these chronic issues set in. That's when inflammatory diseases set in. That's when autoimmune diseases set in, because we've ignored symptoms. So today we're going to dive into a couple of pretty common things that occur to us and what the symptoms are. What do they mean? Why is our body giving us symptoms? So we're going to take a quick little commercial and we're going to come back and we're going to dive right in.
Hello? Your health is calling. Feeling bloated, low on energy, dealing with hormone imbalances? Integrative health coach Sue Kostyk is here to assist you. Reach out to Sue for practical health solutions guided by her professional training as a holistic coach. Sue specializes in identifying the underlying causes of health issues and restoring balance. Don't let your health concerns impact your well-being. Contact Sue Kostyk today at 917-362-5176 or via email at sue@symmetryhealthandwellness.com and take the first step towards a healthier, happier you.
You've been watching Hello, Your Health is Calling. Join me as we dive into the realms of longevity, nutrition, stress management, and toxin removal, all without the use of harsh pharmaceuticals. And now, back to the show.
Okay, here we go. So symptoms, why do symptoms matter? And I love this illustration because our disease or what's going on, how we've been diagnosed, is the tip of the iceberg. It's really that, the underlying things under the ocean, if you will, that we cannot see, that really is the bigger part of the picture. So, if you take a look at a lot of different things that are on the top of the surface, we're talking about diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune diseases, obesity, arthritis, cancers, Everything has an underlying cause. And when that cause comes to the surface, it comes out as symptoms. And so that's why we're going to dive into symptoms mean something. It's not just something that you're going to just put a quick band-aid on to make that symptom go away. And what I really want to hone in on is that a lot of people will come to me and say, my body's just messing up. It's just, I'm getting old. It's not working right. But your body is not attacking you. It's really trying to survive, and it's not messing up by any means. Symptoms are a sign that we need to pay attention. Just like I said earlier, when your check engine light comes on, are you going to just ignore it, or are you going to take it to the mechanic and figure out what's going on? And the first thing that comes to my mind when my check engine light goes on in my car is money. What's it going to cost me? And I think that sometimes when we start to consider our health, that money does come up. And so, it's kind of like pay now or pay later. So let's dive into, what is the job of our body? What is the sole purpose? It's like the job of all of our internal organs working together, being in balance. It's really, the whole job is to clear out toxins, to heal. We're constantly turning over and repairing cells and tissue. Maybe it was last week or the week before, I mentioned that it takes 120 days to reproduce all of your red blood cells. So your body is constantly working to do all those things to restore balance, because we are homeostatic creatures, which means we require balance. It requires all of our systems to be working together so that the ultimate job is to live, to survive. And we have a lot of different mechanisms that will help us achieve that. And healing is the number one thing that our body is constantly doing. So healing is its number one thing. And it's always working to heal. So, if you feel like you're having symptoms, it's your body giving you the sign that it's trying to heal. So, if healing is the number one thing and your body is always working to heal, instead of looking at it as your body's fighting against you, it's really fighting for you. And we can advance to the next slide. Your body is constantly searching out what's going on and how can I heal and what cells do we need to turn over. And when it's doing this process, it might come up against something that's going on in your body. And this is a signal. So your symptom is a signal. It's kind of telling you that your body needs help. It's not saying, I need you to suppress this symptom or this signal. And this is what happens is we start to get these symptoms, and the difference between integrative health and Western medicine or conventional medicine is we suppress the symptom. We're not figuring out why we're having the symptom. The idea is not to block it, but to understand what that symptom is trying to do. What is it telling you to do? Instead of immediately trying to suppress that symptom, it's really worth it to dive deep, get some functional lab testing done. You can always email me at support@helloyourhealthiscalling, and we can talk about things and figure out what is going on and what kind of tests do we need to run based on the signal that your body's giving you. So I've thought about different things, and we can go on next week and even go into more of these, but I'm going to outline just a few issues that we come across that are very popular, that is a signal that your body's giving you. And I'm going to start off with high cholesterol, because that's one of the things I think that, there's a staggering statistic of how many people are on cholesterol lowering medications. And cholesterol, the job of cholesterol is to repair damaged cells and tissues. And cholesterol is super important in the repair of cells. It's very important in protecting your brain, keeping you safe from those brain degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia. But the signal of high cholesterol is really that you have chronic inflammation, because the inflammation raises the cholesterol so that it can protect you. Um, you know, when you have chronic inflammation and your cholesterol goes up, your liver is not able to remove that excess cholesterol. So that's why it's staying in your body. And then all of a sudden we have these high cholesterol issues. Your gallbladder also, if your gallbladder is sluggish, then that's going to prevent further elimination of that excess cholesterol. And so when you think about when you are diagnosed with high cholesterol, and your doctor's going through, your history and everything. It's like, well, my mom had high cholesterol, my dad, my grandparents, all these things, because genetics do matter, but it doesn't pull the trigger. And, keeping the inflammation low, doing liver detoxes so it can continue doing its job, are those things that are going to keep your cholesterol at a good level, so that when you're given a cholesterol lowering medication, it's actually teaching your body that you don't have to lower it yourself. And so therefore the inflammation is going to stay. And then there's other side effects that go along with those drugs too. So cholesterol is just one of those examples because it is highly popular. It comes along with obesity. It comes along with chronic stress. So, cholesterol is always there. The next one I want to talk about is blood pressure. So high blood pressure, those medications, again, there are astounding statistics of how many people are on high blood pressure and cholesterol lowering medication, because these two kind of go hand in hand. And when you have chronic inflammation, these things are going to sneak in to your life. So blood pressure, what's the job? It protects your heart and ensures that your organs are receiving all the oxygen and nutrients it needs. So when you have high blood pressure, it's forcing your heart to work really hard. And along with that constant hard work comes hardening of the arteries, plaque, all those things. Both cholesterol and high blood pressure, they come from poor diet, lack of exercise and movement, obesity, hormone imbalance, insulin resistant, chronic stress. I would say that stress is probably one of the number one things that is going to dictate whether you have high cholesterol or high blood pressure, because chronic stress is going to cause your body to never rest and relax. And then, of course, age. With age comes a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that when you age that you have to have these things. It doesn't. That's just such a myth. So that's for another day. So when I talk about chronic stress, and because all of these things that I'm talking about, they all go hand in hand. You very rarely have one without the other. So chronic stress is going to be caused by high cholesterol, or high cortisol, sorry. And so the next signal is chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue. And that is caused by cortisol. So the next thing we want to move to is cortisol and why we have too much of it. So what's happening with cortisol? The cortisol is a hormone. It's released. It brings energy to survive. That was the best way to shorten the explanation of why cortisol is released. Because when you are in a fight or flight situation, which, remember, I talked about this a lot on earlier podcasts about that fight or flight, about being in chronic stress. So if you want to go back, do a search in YouTube at the Reinvented Life Network. Hello, Your Health is Calling. And there are lots of podcasts about chronic stress, about cortisol, what that does to you. So this is just all kind of a brief overview. And so with the signal, what is the signal that you're getting when you have too much cortisol? Chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, or failure. And a lot of autoimmune situations are caused by chronic fatigue and our adrenals failing because we are in chronic stress. Too much cortisol is going to eventually run out. And that's when you get into the adrenal failure because your adrenal glands can't produce any more cortisol. So paying attention to your lifestyle, to how much stress you're under, managing it. Like I said, I did a whole podcast on stress management. So you can go back and take a look at those. Or again, contact me, support at Hello, Your Health is Calling. Happy to chat anytime. So the signal you're getting is chronic fatigue. You can't get out of bed. And chronic fatigue syndrome is a diagnosis. And it's actually your body conserving energy. Honestly, that is really what it is because it's trying to get healthy. And so it's going to shut down things to conserve energy. So you feel like you can't get out of bed. It's hard to manage throughout the day, lots of brain fog. And, a lot of times it's caused by poor sleep, nutritional deficiencies, again, chronic stress, sedentary lifestyle. And if you do have an autoimmune disorder, that goes hand in hand with chronic fatigue because your body is conserving energy so that it can heal. Remember, it's not attacking you. It's trying to survive. It's trying to live. And if healing is the number one thing that your body is meant to do, then it's going to start shutting things down so that you can heal. And, we start to talk about, different signals. And let's go to the next slide. And here are some signals that your body may be giving you in the name of a disease or a syndrome that you're having. So if you feel like, or if you have been diagnosed with thyroid disorders, with adrenal dysfunction, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, chronic infections, Epstein-Barr, Lyme disease, if you suffer from long COVID, a lot of these things are going to be triggers of chronic fatigue because these long-term viruses, your body's going to shut down its energy so that it can get into the cells and heal. Autoimmune diseases, lupus, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, heart and lung diseases. First day with my new mouth. So a lot of these titles, I'm going to say, are just signals that your body is giving you because for some reason, when you're genetically disposed to something, not everybody is genetically disposed to the same things. And so when you're in a symptom, that symptom, yes, it could be genetically disposed, but what's triggered it? And, it's worth talking about how naturally your body can heal itself because our bodies were created just marvelously and mysteriously to be able to heal when given the support that it needs. So when you find yourself in some of these symptoms, and these last symptoms, they're serious. And it's a struggle for a lot of people who are going through them. And so I'm not minimizing this at all. But what I'm saying is that when you have any one of these kind of signals, I'm going to call them, instead of masking the symptom, which is what conventional medicine does, what if you could figure out what the underlying root cause, like remember that first slide we showed, you've got the iceberg and then you have the huge mountain below it of the things that you can't see. And a lot of these diseases, the symptoms aren't bothersome until they're debilitating. And so when we think about, chronic disease and what you could possibly do when you start to feel the symptoms and manage it, if we start to listen to our body and understand that there's a reason for everything, but what do we do on the other side of it? Have we been optimizing our sleep? Have we been balancing our nutrition and taking the supplements that we need, especially when you start to age? I'm going through this very interesting certification on longevity. And I'm at that age. I'll be 63 in a few months. And every morning I wake up, I'm like, oh, didn't feel that before. So it is a thing, but I don't want people to say, because of your age, this is what's happening. We just need to learn how to supplement ourselves and support ourselves into our aging. So, another podcast too. Managing stress. Stress is huge. I urge every person, you cannot escape stress. There is absolutely no way, unless you are living off the grid and are self-sufficient. You may not have too much stress. Maybe stress of finding food. I don't know. But in today's age, everybody has stress, whatever era of your life you're in, whatever season of your life you're in. If you're, a teenager, a young adult, getting into midlife or retirement, there's always going to be stress. And so managing your stress is super, super key so that you can turn off the cortisol that steals from all of your other hormone production, just so it can survive. So, and if you do find yourself that you are, getting into some of these signals, then exercising is super important too, but not the type that's going to add stress. It is gentle exercise. It's walking. It's getting your 10,000 steps in. It's doing maybe some stretching, some yoga, but movement. Movement is so, so important. And, we go back to blood pressure. And so many times people who have high blood pressure, they don't move. They're at a desk for 12 plus hours a day, and probably are not getting a lot of sleep, and probably are not eating well. So, those things are super important when you're talking about the basics. And, check your hormone levels, because what happens is, especially when you're under chronic stress, your hormone levels are going to be very unbalanced. So knowing what your hormone and nutrient levels are really, really important when you are trying to steer clear of any kind of genetic predisposition that you think you have. So functional lab testing, we do it. It's super easy. The tests are sent to your house. You do the tests, you send them into the lab, and they're sent to me for results. So it's not anything that you have to even leave your home for. And we can test everything. We can test your hormones. We can test your inflammation levels. We can test your toxicity levels. We can test for gut bacteria. So keeping in balance. Remember I said that we are homeostatic creatures. And so that means we must be in balance in order to survive long term. And so really, checking all of your levels of everything is super important. Improving your gut health. Talk about gut health all the time. Your gut is connected to everything. And it has been studied and it has been proven, and there are so many PubMed articles and studies about how your gut affects your overall health. And if your gut is not in balance, then these signals are going to start creeping into your life. So testing for bacteria is one of the first things that I always want to do with people, is just let's see how balanced your gut is, because if it's not, then the inflammation sets in and you start having a whole slew of things. So, and reducing your inflammation, it sounds so easy, but we make it so hard. And these are all things that we can do today. If you don't want to test, then you can follow my de-stress protocol that I've talked about over and over and over again. And you can just start with your diet, your exercise, your stress reduction, your toxins that are, we're bombarded. When I started studying integrative health, it was about 6 years ago. And actually more than that now. But there was at that time about 70,000 toxins, man-made toxins in our environment. And now the statistic is over 100,000. So it's just getting worse. So toxin removal is super important. If that's just the one thing that you do, clean up your household products, clean up your food, clean up your cookware, clean up your beauty products. That's a great place to start. Rest, making sure that you're getting that rest, that you're not burning the candle at both ends. Emotions, controlling your emotions. We talk in another podcast about the 9 toxic emotions, and emotions are cluttering. Emotions will get in the way. I'm not saying don't feel them. I'm just saying make sure you manage them. And then supplementation. I talk about it all the time. If you're like me, I would say even up till about 6 or 7 years ago, I had the mentality that I can get all my nutrition from my food. And then the more I learn, the more I know you cannot. And I know that as you advance in life, there are things that you need to supplement with. Even in your teens and 20s and early adulthood, it's impossible to get what you need from the food that you eat. And especially if you have a high processed diet, that you eat a lot of fast food or you go out to restaurants a lot, that's when supplementation is super key also. Reducing that inflammation. And then the last part of the de-stress protocol is your mindset. It's a success mindset. So if you enter into this thinking that you can't, you're right. So your mind is powerful. Again, I've done podcasts on that too. I don't even know. I think I'm probably close to between 35 podcasts. I don't know. But you can go back YouTube at the Reinvented Life Network. Hello, Your Health is Calling. You can, there's a title on every thumbnail. So you can kind of go back and search. But, lastly, I talk about genetics a lot, and genetics are important because genetics matter. And they do load the gun. And there are people that have kind of sucky genetics. I'm sorry, but it's true. And the doctor that I certified under, Dr. Stephen Cabral, if you follow his story, he has really bad genetics. But he has managed to figure it out. And there's actually a test that tests your DNA. So it tells you how your cells are aging versus your chronological age. And he ages less than his years. So it is possible. So, genetics load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. And it's paying attention. I'm not saying be perfect, because no one is. Nobody can be perfect. That's when you get burnout. That's when it's that all or nothing mentality. It's just start simple. Start with one thing if you need to. Just, my suggestion is always diet, because when I was into the bodybuilding stuff, my coaches always told me, muscles are built in the kitchen. So, that's one of the easiest things that you can do is just pay attention to what you're eating. And just, if you eliminate processed food from your diet and eat whole food from the earth, or something that grazes on the grass, or flies in the sky, or swims in the ocean, not in an ocean farm, but in a wild ocean, you're gonna have a jump start on your health. So remembering that your health is not a hobby, And that when your body starts to give you those signals, it's so important to pay attention. And remember that if your health is calling, to answer it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Hello, Your Health is Calling with Sue Kostyk. Remember, your health journey is ongoing, and we're here to support you every step of the way. If you have any questions, insights, or stories to share, don't hesitate to reach out. You can connect with us on social media or call in live at 888-994-4995 Studio A. Together, we're transforming lives and embracing holistic well-being. Until next time, prioritize your health and remember, your health is calling.